There are people in this world who look exactly like you. Same age, same city, same starting point. But their life looks nothing like yours, and deep down you already know why. Most people never ask the real question. Not how do I get better, but what level am I actually living at? Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most people are stuck, not because they're lazy, not because they're stupid, but because they've never been honest enough to look at themselves and say, I am not where I should be. Right now, there are 10 levels of human existence, 10 stages of how people think, how they act, how they carry themselves through life. And most of the world, 99% of it, never makes it past level 5. Not because the path is hidden, but because reaching the top requires something most people are not willing to give themselves completely. So before we go any further, ask yourself one question. And be honest, what level are you actually on? Level 1 is where almost everyone begins. You wake up, you react to life. You don't drive your day drives you. Notifications pull you. Other people's moods control yours. You live inside a loop you didn't choose, following rules you never questioned, chasing a version of success someone else designed. Level 1 isn't about poverty or failure. It's about unconsciousness. And the terrifying part, most people live their entire lives here and call it normal. Level 2 is the moment of discomfort. Something cracks. A loss, a failure, a quiet night where the silence gets too loud. You start to feel it, this gnawing feeling that something is wrong. Not with your job, not with your relationships, with you, with the way you've been living. This is where most people reach for a distraction. A new show, another scroll, anything to silence the voice. But that voice, that uncomfortable, relentless voice, that's not your enemy. That's the first signal. The system waking up. Here's what separates level 2 from level 3. At level 2, you feel the discomfort. At level 3, you choose to stay in it. You stop running, you sit with the truth. And the truth is painful. It shows you how much time you've wasted, how many excuses you've made, how often you've chosen comfort over growth. Level 3 is brutal, but it's also sacred. Because this is where identity begins to shift. You start asking, who am I becoming instead of what am I getting? But here's where the open wound of human psychology lives. Most people touch level 3 and retreat. The pain of self-awareness is so sharp that they run back to level 1 and convince themselves it was just a phase, just overthinking, just stress. They medicate the discomfort. They call it healing. But numbing and healing are not the same thing. You cannot grow from what you refuse to feel. Level 4 is where the work begins. Real work, not the kind people post about. The invisible kind, the 5 a.m. kind. The kind where nobody claps for you and the results haven't arrived yet and your old friends start to look at you differently. This is the stage where most so-called self-improvement journeys die. Because at level 4, motivation runs out. The dopamine of a new beginning fades. And what's left is just discipline. Cold, quiet, unglamorous discipline. And you realize something that changes everything. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to move. The people who survive level 4 develop something rare, a tolerance for being misunderstood. Because when you start operating differently, people around you feel it. And some of them, the ones still living at level 1, they won't like it. They'll call you obsessed, intense, too serious. And here's the psychological truth behind that. When your growth makes someone else uncomfortable, it's because your growth is a mirror, and they don't like what they see. Level 5 is the plateau. And it is the most dangerous place on earth for someone who wants more. You've made some progress. People are starting to notice. You feel better than before. Life is working. And there is a quiet whisper in your head that says, maybe this is enough. Maybe I've done enough. Maybe I can rest now. Most people accept this whisper as wisdom. It is not wisdom. It is the last great test of mediocrity. It is comfort wearing the mask of contentment. And if you stop here, you will never know what you were actually capable of. 99% of the world lives between levels 1 and 5, cycling, dipping, resting, reaching, never arriving. And there is nothing wrong with them as human beings. But you are watching this for a reason. Something in you knows you are not meant for average. Something in you refuses to settle. That part of you, that is the 1% beginning to speak. Level 6 is where the philosophy begins. You stop asking how to succeed and start asking why. Why do I want this? What is the cost? What am I willing to sacrifice? And more importantly, who do I want to be when I arrive? This is the stage where character becomes more important than results, where integrity becomes non-negotiable, where you realize that the goal was never money or status. The goal was always becoming someone who doesn't need validation to feel whole. By level 7, something extraordinary happens. You become quiet. Not defeated quiet, powerful quiet, You stop explaining yourself. You stop arguing with people who aren't on your path. You stop wasting energy on anything that doesn't build you. There is a stillness in a level 7 person that terrifies people who have never felt it because they don't understand it. They confuse it with arrogance. It isn't arrogance. It's alignment. When who you are and what you do and why you do it are all pointing in the same direction, there is nothing left to prove. Level 8 is pain at a new depth, because at this stage, the growth is no longer about removing weakness. It's about confronting the parts of yourself you've protected the longest, the identity you built as a child to survive, the patterns you carry from your parents, the fears you've never named because naming them made them real. Level 8 breaks you open in a way that level 1 never could, but the difference is you have the strength now to survive the breaking. You understand that the wound and the gift are the same thing, and you emerge from this stage not as a harder person, but as a deeper one. Level 9. This is where legacy begins. You stop building for yourself and start building for something larger. A family, a community, a mission. You realize that everything you've been through was not just for you. The pain, the discipline, the reinvention, it was training. And now you have something to give. Not advice, not content, but evidence. Living, breathing evidence that transformation is real. That it is possible, that a human being can decide to become something extraordinary and then actually do it. And then there is level 10. Level 10 is not a destination. It is not a trophy. It is not a number in a bank account or a title on a business card. Level 10 is a state of being. It is a person who has stripped away every mask, every performance, every false identity they ever wore, and what remains is undeniably, unapologetically themselves. They have lived through the discomfort of becoming. They have earned the quietness of knowing. They are not trying to become anyone. They already are. Only 1% of people reach level 10, not because it requires genius, not because it requires luck, but because it requires a kind of honesty that most people never choose. It requires looking at your own reflection without flinching. It requires doing the work when nobody is watching. It requires choosing growth over and over again, not when it's exciting, but when it's exhausting. Not when there's applause, but when there is only silence. So now the real question, not which level do you want to be on, but which level are you willing to fight for? Because here is the final truth, and it will stay with you long after this ends. You already know what level you're on. You knew before you clicked this video. You felt it in the quiet moments when you were completely honest with yourself. And the reason this video found you is not a coincidence. Something inside you has been calling for more for a long time. And that call, that hunger, is not a flaw. It is the signal. It is the invitation. It is the beginning. The question is no longer whether you can reach level 10. The question is whether you will choose to start today, not next Monday, not after this feeling fades. Today, with whatever you have, wherever you are. Most people will finish this video, feel something powerful, and return to level 1 within the hour. But you, if you are truly meant for this, you will not let this be another moment you felt it and did nothing. You will let this be the moment everything changed. The 10 levels exist. The path is real. The 1% is not a myth. It is a choice. And it is available to anyone who refuses to stop. The only question left is that you. If something in this video shifted something in you, if you felt it land somewhere deep, subscribe. Not for content, for the person you are in the process of becoming. This channel exists for the 1%, and you just proved you belong here.